Okay, who hasn't fantasized about escaping to like a total luxury oasis? Like whether it's a beach or mountains or even like right in a super vibrant city, just that feeling of being completely, pampered.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty universally appealing.
Totally. So today we're doing a deep dive into a world that promises exactly that, like that pampered life, the Four Seasons residence.
Oh, interesting. I'm familiar with the Four Seasons brand, of course, but I'm not as up on the resident side of things.
Yeah, and you sent us some pretty impressive promotional materials, and honestly, they're clearly aiming for a whole new level of luxury. But we're gonna go deeper than just like the surface, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Beyond the glossy brochures, I'm curious what sets them apart.
Right. So they're not just talking about fancy rooms and amenities, they're really pushing this idea of personalized service.
Okay, interesting. What does that look like specifically?
So picture this. You check in, and they've already stocked the fridge with, like, your favorite drinks. Or maybe your suite is decorated with a color palette you mentioned, I don't know, liking on social media once. That level of detail.
Hmm. That's a good point. It's not just about luxury as a status symbol
Hmm.
anymore, right? It's about making the guest feel truly seen and catered to. I wonder if this is a response to the rise of those like hyper-personalized travel experiences.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to bring, like, that boutique hotel feel, to a larger, more established brand. But what really struck me was the crazy variety of locations they have. It's not just one kind of luxury experience.
Right, right. So it's not just beaches or just cities. They're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, they have beachfront places in like Koh Samui in Thailand. Imagine, practically stepping out of your villa onto the sand.
Wow. Yeah, that's idyllic.
Right. But then they also have these incredible mountain retreats, like in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Stunning views, the kind that makes you just want to curl up by a fireplace with a good book.
Oh, I can picture it now. That sounds amazing.
And of course, they haven't forgotten about us city lovers. They have residences in super iconic places like Venice.
So they're really trying to cover all the bases, almost like cornering the market on luxury, no matter what your ideal escape looks like.
Exactly. And you know what else they seem to be emphasizing, regardless of where you are? The food.
Oh, of course. Food is such a huge part of the travel experience these days.
It really is. And it's not just room service here. We're talking gourmet delights at every turn, is how they phrase it. Like breakfast spreads that are practically works of art, and in-residence dining that's like having a private chef right in your villa.
Yeah, that culinary experience is becoming a bigger and bigger selling point for luxury travel. It's not just fuel, right? It's like engaging all your senses.
Totally. And speaking of engaging the senses, have you noticed how they talk about the spa experience? It's not just like a quick massage. They describe it as a sanctuary of comfort and style, with treatments using, all these fancy ingredients.
Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to elevate that whole spa experience, make it feel as luxurious and personalized as the rest of the stay.
Right. I wonder if this is them like responding to the whole wellness trend, how people are more into holistic well-being now.
For sure. And they're not just catering to the spa goers either. They mentioned state-of-the-art fitness facilities and things like yoga and meditation sessions.
They really are covering all the bases when it comes to wellness. Okay, but what I found super interesting was this section on exclusive activities. They're not just talking about, lounging by the pool. They're offering experiences that are actually unique.
Oh, yeah. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, hold on tight because this is where we get to the buffalo bathing.
Wait, what? Buffalo bathing.
I know, right? Sounds a little crazy. Apparently, at one of their locations, you can actually get up close and personal with these, gentle giants helping to bathe and care for them.
Okay, that's definitely not your typical luxury activity, but it's definitely memorable.
Exactly. It really speaks to this desire for like authentic experiences, not
Okay.
just the typical tourist stuff.
It's interesting how they're blending luxury with something more meaningful. And they also seem to be doing a good job catering to families. They mentioned kids clubs, family-friendly dining, activities for all ages.
So it's not just a luxurious escape for adults, right? It's about the whole family feeling pampered and entertained.
Makes sense. And speaking of catering to different groups, they also highlight how they handle special occasions, weddings, honeymoons, corporate retreats, private events, the whole nine yards. They even mention like expert planners who handle every detail so you can just relax and enjoy.
Wow, yeah, it's like they're trying to be like a one-stop shop for any kind of special occasion.
But do you think there's, I don't know, maybe a risk of overemphasizing these special events? Could it take away from the core experience of just like enjoying the resort itself?
Hmm, that's a good question. Maybe it's about finding the right balance, right? Offering those extra services for special occasions, but not losing what makes a Four Seasons stay unique in the first
Yeah,
place.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of unique, we haven't even touched on what might be the most important aspect of any luxury stay: privacy and security.
Oh, absolutely, right? It's great to have amazing amenities and personalized service, but if you don't feel safe and secure, it's hard to actually relax.
Exactly. So how does the Four Seasons address that?
Well, they seem to get it. They talk about their secluded villas and private residences, emphasizing the peace and quiet you can find there. They mention things like private pools, expansive terraces, even direct beach access. So you can come
Oh.
and go as you please without feeling like you're in some crowded, resort.
So it's about creating that sense of exclusivity, like you have your own little slice of paradise.
Right. But they also talk about security in a way that's reassuring, but not like over the top. They
Hmm.
mention advanced security systems and a dedicated security team.
So you can feel confident that you're in good hands,
Hmm.
even though it feels private and secluded.
Exactly. So it's clear they're trying to create an experience that's both luxurious and secure. But we've really only scratched the surface here.
I was just thinking that. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much to explore.
Absolutely. So in part two, we're going to delve even deeper into those fascinating details. We'll see how they pull off that personalized service, how they're catering to that demand for authentic experiences, and what their focus on privacy and security really means for the modern luxury traveler.
It sounds like we have a lot more to uncover. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome back.
So, we left off talking about privacy and security, but I want to circle back to that personalized service for a second. In those promotional materials, it's like they mention it constantly.
Oh, yeah. It's clearly a major selling point for them. But how do they actually deliver on that promise, right?
That's what I'm curious about too. They talk about having this 24/7 concierge team, but it's not just, booking dinner reservations or whatever.
Right. It's got to be more than just like basic concierge stuff.
Yeah, they mentioned creating these like bespoke experiences, private wine tastings with a sommelier or arranging a personalized shopping trip with a stylist, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's definitely a step up. It sounds like they're trying to anticipate like your needs before you even realize you have them.
Yeah. And that makes you wonder, right? How do they actually pull that off? Do they have some algorithm that analyzes your, I don't know, Instagram likes or something? Or is it more about like intuition, having a team of people who are just like super observant?
Right. Is it high tech or high touch? It's a good question. And it kind of speaks to that challenge of, scaling personalized service, but without it
Right.
feeling fake or impersonal.
Right, exactly. And this focus on personalization, it doesn't stop at the concierge desk. They also talk about in-residence dining.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like having a chef prepare a meal right in your villa. Right.
Exactly. Imagine like your own private restaurant, but even more exclusive.
You could probably work with the chef to create like a totally custom menu, whatever you're craving.
Oh, for sure. Ask for specific ingredients, accommodate, dietary restrictions, the whole 9 yards. It's all about control.
Yeah, yeah, being in total control of the experience. And that's pretty powerful, especially when you're on vacation.
Totally. It's about like letting go of the everyday and just being completely, taken care of.
Speaking of being taken care of, they also really emphasize how they handle those special occasions like honeymoons.
Oh, yeah,
They
right.
mention things like setting up private dinners on the beach or, couples massages in your villa.
It's interesting how they're trying to position themselves as like a romantic destination, even though they also cater to, families and business travelers.
It is a bit of a balancing act, right? Trying to be everything to everyone. But I guess it makes sense if you want to appeal to the widest possible audience.
Right, exactly. So, okay, I do want to shift gears a bit, though. We were talking about privacy and security earlier, and I think that's something we need to dig into a bit more.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's
Yeah,
great to have all these luxurious amenities and personalized service, but if you don't feel safe, you can't really relax and enjoy it, right?
exactly. And they seem to understand that. They talk about their secluded villas, their private residences, and they emphasize the peace and quiet.
Yeah, they talk about features like, private entrances, gated communities, even like direct beach access.
It's like they're creating these little pockets of paradise where you can escape from the outside world.
I can see the appeal of that, for sure. But do they mention anything specific about security measures?
Oh, yeah. They mention advanced security systems, 247 surveillance, a dedicated security team, the whole works.
So it sounds like they take it pretty seriously. It's not just about the feeling of privacy. They've got actual measures in place.
Exactly. They're trying to strike that balance between, offering exclusivity, but also making sure that guests feel safe and protected.
And, as much as people value those authentic travel experiences,
Mm,
you can't really have that authenticity if you're constantly worried about your safety.
that's true. But okay, speaking of authentic experiences, did you notice how much they emphasize that in the materials? It's not just
Yeah.
about, lying on a beach or whatever. They're really trying to offer something more.
Yeah, I was intrigued by that. It seemed like they were going beyond just the typical resort activities.
Right. They mentioned things like at their property in Koh Samui, they have these traditional Thai cooking classes so you can learn to prepare authentic dishes using local ingredients.
Oh, wow, that sounds really cool. I'd definitely be interested in something like that.
And then at their property in Florence, they have private guided tours of the city led by art historians and local
So it's
experts.
not just seeing the famous sites, but really understanding them,
Yeah.
getting that deeper context.
Exactly. And they also mentioned wine tastings, hiking excursions, even private concerts. It's like they're curating a collection of experiences that are both, luxurious, but also authentic to the location.
Right. It's not just about luxury for luxury's sake. There's a sense of place, of
Mm.
connecting with the culture.
And I think that's really smart because, like you said earlier, people are looking for more than just a typical vacation these days.
Yeah, it's about creating those memories, having experiences you can't just replicate anywhere.
Exactly. And with their focus on, personalization and attention to detail, it seems like they're really well positioned to deliver on that promise.
So we've talked a lot about what the Four Seasons is doing, but I'm curious, what does all of this mean for, the average traveler? What can we learn from their approach, even if we're not all jetting off to a Four Seasons residence every time we travel?
That's a great question, and I think it's something we should definitely explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time, unpacking this whole Four Seasons residence thing. What do you think, what's the biggest takeaway for the average traveler?
I am obviously not everyone can afford a Four Seasons vacation every time, but I do think there are some universal lessons here.
Right, things we can apply to our own travels no matter where we're going or what our budget is.
Totally. One thing that keeps coming up for me is that personalization aspect.
Oh, yeah, definitely. People want to feel like, their trip is tailored to them. Like they're not just another face in the crowd.
It's not just about checking things off a list, right? It's
Yeah.
about those unique and meaningful experiences.
Exactly. And that kind of ties into that whole authenticity thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
Travelers want to connect with the local culture, get a real sense of place.
It's about going beyond the tourist tracks and finding something, I don't know, more real, more genuine.
So how do we do that? Like, practically speaking, how do we find those authentic experiences?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to research, honestly, really taking the time to figure out what a destination is all about, what makes it special.
Yeah, reading beyond just the top 10 things to do on TripAdvisor.
Right, like maybe finding a local blog or, I don't know, connecting with someone who's actually from that place.
And then once you're there, being open to, stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, maybe trying a local dish you've never heard of or exploring a neighborhood that's not in all the guidebooks.
And I think, even though we can't all afford a private chef or a personal stylist, we can still embrace that personalization
Oh,
aspect.
totally. It's about finding travel providers who are willing to go the extra mile.
Like a small hotel with a really attentive staff, or maybe a local tour guide who can create a custom itinerary for you.
And it doesn't always have to be expensive either. It's more about an attitude, a way of approaching travel.
So it's not just about how much money you spend, but about, being intentional, making choices that align with your values and what you're looking for.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, isn't that what travel is all about? Creating those memories, having those experiences that stay with you long after you get home.
Totally. And I think the Four Seasons residence, for all its luxury, it's tapping into something that's universal, that desire for connection, for
Mhm.
something real.
So even if we're not all staying in a beachfront villa, we can still take those lessons with us,
Uh,
right? And create our own versions of luxury, whatever that looks like for us.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Luxury is personal. It's about what matters to you, what makes you feel alive and connected to the world.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.